Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, allow me to thank Prime Cabinet Secretary, who is also from my county and a friend, for appearing before the Senate. I represent a county that has a problem, a major problem with what we are discussing now, Madam Speaker. And I think every year we have in excess of 12 cases which are reported to me. And on various occasions, Madam Speaker, I have brought questions and even engaged the Ministry of Foreign Affairs on the same. So what I would request the Prime Cabinet Secretary is if it is possible to give a breakdown of these figures per county so that we can understand the extent of the problem. Number two, in the process of dealing with this problem that is common in my county, there are occasions where we are told that some of these people travel to those countries through unregistered cartels of some recruitment agencies which are not licensed by the government. So there is every possibility that those who die and they were taken there by these recruitment agencies, possibly the government does not have their data. So what is the ministry doing about this? The issue of unregistered and unscrupulous recruitment agency who take advantage of the plight of these girls and boys to recruit them through illegal means, and then these people end up dying or harmed in those countries. What is the government doing about this matter?
Cabinet Secretary, respond to that.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wish to state that definitely there were some challenges in the past, and we are trying to resolve them because we didn't have proper and accurate data. But I can assure the House and the nation that through the Department of Diaspora and also working with the Immigration Department, we are now establishing more accurate data of the Kenyans that are traveling to various countries, including the Gulf states. Also on the websites of the State Department for Diaspora, we are able to indicate the licensed recruitment agencies, because in the past, we have had cases where the Senator is right that unscrupulous people have taken advantage and landed our Kenyan people in very difficult situations. So we are trying to streamline this. And in between, let me also just notify the Senate that we are also improving on our negotiation on what you'd call the labor or employment agreements with various countries. And we are making them much better, much more refined, so that the safeguards can be provided for our Kenyans. And a classic example now is in Germany, where we are just about to conclude an agreement of a labor framework or employment framework, and we are refining even those that relate to the Gulf and other states. Equally, Madam Speaker, I want to mention to the House here, the Senate, that the points they are raising are valid and important, because one of the things we intend to do is to be able to have a sessional paper that will be brought to Parliament, and some of these issues we would like to draw from the knowledge and experience of Parliament, so that we can improve on how we engage with foreign countries on some of these issues. But we are making steps to change the situation.
Okay, thank you. Senator George Mungai Bogwa.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would want the Cabinet Secretary to tell this House how far the operationalization of the Migrant Welfare Fund has reached. Thank you.
Cabinet Secretary.
Madam Speaker, that is work in progress because the labor migration bill is supposed to be debated and cleared by Parliament. So that is work in progress, and then we shall be able to establish how the fund shall operate.
Senator Beatrice Akinyi Ogola.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to thank the Cabinet Secretary, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, for finding time to come for our questions, and probably to also guide fellow CSS that the questions we ask here are on behalf of the Kenyans that they're appointed to lead. My question to the Prime Cabinet Secretary is, Madam Speaker, why does it take the embassy sometimes a long time to respond to the distress calls of Kenyans, especially in the Gulf, taking into consideration, Madam Speaker, that the government is capable of tracing the details of Kenyans as they exit and as they enter those countries at the immigration points? Thank you.
Cabinet Secretary.
Madam Speaker, as I said, it's not as easy as it may appear sometimes, but our missions are making every effort, particularly in the Gulf, because sometimes our Kenyans don't then communicate. Once they have landed and they've gone to where they're going, they don't communicate, and we sometimes get to know only when they are in a state of distress. So these are some of the things we are hoping to overcome as we establish better data and better communication networks. But I want to assure the Honourable Member that we will not tire. We'll want to do the best we can to support our citizens wherever they are.
Senator Adan Dulo Fatuma.
Chair, let me welcome CS to this House. I think part of the issues I wanted to raise has been raised by Senator Osotsi, and CS has tried to assist. My problem is with the agencies, because most of them actually, they are not genuine. They're not also giving proper information. And I think as a ministry, you need to regulate them properly. Number two, Chair, if the credible agencies can be cascaded to the county level, so that those who are at the county level can be able to identify, because that particular area provides employment to our people. So if it can be cascaded to the county level so that they can know who are credible and they can apply through them or get employment, it will be better. I thank you.
Prime Cabinet Secretary.
Madam Speaker, first of all the agencies that are registered are available on the NEA website. That is the National Employment Agency website. And this information is also shared with the NGAO. This is how we cascade it through the county commissioners all the way, so that this information is available at the district and county offices as well. But one thing that remains is that through this National Employment Agency, there are regulations, and we are trying to weed out all the entities that do not fit the bill, that are not fit for purpose. So this is an ongoing process, and we are also ready to receive any further ideas on how we can tighten the noose around the bad elements from this House and other Kenyans.
Thank you. Senator Mutinda Tabitha Morin.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Let me start appreciating the Prime Cabinet Secretary for the good job that we've been doing as far as digital literacy is concerned through ICDL. I take this opportunity to appreciate you. Also, just to inform you that I'm the owner of the labor migration management bill that you've just mentioned. It's my bill, and we can be able to work together to sort these issues. Two questions that I have. What MOUs currently do you have in your office with the Gulf countries where our people are working? And are there any rescue centers in these particular regions? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Honorable Cabinet Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. 19 MOUs are being negotiated as we speak. We are quite advanced with Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Saudi, and we have a few rescue centers. We have a rescue center in Saudi Arabia. And the other one, Madam Speaker, is that we are looking for resources. And this is a conversation we have had with the budget committees to be, of Parliament to be able to obtain resources so that we can put up more rescue centers. That is one of the biggest challenges that we face. But once we have sufficient resources, we shall roll out a few rescue centers.
Thank you. Senator Mogeni Eric Okongo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also want to thank the Prime Cabinet Secretary for appearing before the Senate to respond to the questions posed to the Ministry. Madam Speaker, I want to write on the questions that was asked by Senator Alwali and ask a supplementary question. And I want to make a disclosure that I did raise this matter before the Prime Cabinet Secretary, so he's aware. And I thank him for having accepted to receive me when I went to raise this question. The case of Joshua Mankone Amenya, held up in Somaliland. Could the Prime Cabinet Secretary give us an update whether there has been any progress to secure the freedom of this Kenyan held in Somaliland? And two, just a clarification on the response by the CS. He says that Kenyans are attracted to work in the Gulf states because those countries provide high economic prospects for Kenyans. Could the CS kindly give us a breakdown on earnings for Kenyans who work in the construction industry, agricultural industry, and the domestic workers? How much do they earn in those countries? Thank you.
Prime Cabinet Secretary, can you respond to that?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I must state that on the issue of the level of earnings, that is data that would require a little more time to obtain. We may not get the precise, but we may try to get the range, the salary brackets, and then we can also avail that. On the issue of Joshua Makone Amenya, I wish to state that indeed it is true that the Honorable Senator did see me in the office with our other citizens, senior citizens like Chief Justice David Maraga and the family, the parents of Mr. Amenya and also his wife. And I wish to state that after the conversation we had, I did call the representatives of the Somaliland, the representatives of Somaliland, and we held talks regarding the unfair treatment and incarceration of Mr. Amenya. And they then said that they would be going back to their headquarters, revert to the headquarters and come back with an updated position. Unfortunately, to this date, they have not come back with a comprehensive response as to why they continue to hold this gentleman. I would also like to let the members know that this is Somaliland, not the federal government of the Republic of Somalia. So we have not stopped in pursuing the agenda. I continue to push it personally so that we can have a response and hopefully facilitate the release of Mr. Joshua Amenya, because the circumstances under which he is being held from where we sit are clearly unreasonable. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Cabinet Secretary. Majority Leader, Senator Aaron Cheriot.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I just have one question to the Prime Cabinet Secretary, and I appreciate the precise answers that he's giving to the issues that are being raised by senators, which is quite commendable. I see the Prime Cabinet Secretary is accompanied by, among others, the PS for Diaspora Affairs. Therefore, my question is in regard to the 19 bilateral labor agreements that he alluded to earlier, and I have heard the President speak about it in public forums on many occasions. Do we have a timeline of when we are likely to conclude on them, and what is a likely impact in terms of, one, job opportunities, numbers, and two, the cadres of scale, because there's misinformation outside there by cynics who imagine that the bilateral labor agreements are only for manual jobs, but not professional working opportunities for educated Kenyans. Therefore, if we can have a timeline, Madam Speaker, we'd really appreciate, because we've had about this conversation for quite a while. Can he give a commitment before this House that by such and such a time, we'll have concluded on these agreements? I know it's a cross-cutting issue between his ministry and that of Ministry of Labor, but that's where his cap of being Prime Cabinet Secretary comes in handy, because his duties overlap as well. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Prime Cabinet Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wish to state that indeed these 19 agreements are work in progress, and they're at various stages because they're bilateral. So you are ending up negotiating with different countries. But we have some, for instance, Germany, we are likely to be able to conclude by September. And indeed, not too long ago, the German parliament has now passed a bill basically affirming this policy, where they'll be able to take many migrants and Kenya was trying to secure a slot to have close to 200,000 slots in different areas to be able to go and work in Germany. And I wish to state that we are not, these negotiations are not just about what you'd call laborers. We have a skills policy that is being worked on so that we can have even doctors, we can have other technicians, teachers and other people who are qualified and skilled in different areas to be able to also benefit from this arrangement. In the case of the United Arab Emirates, for instance, we have more or less concluded a CEPA. This is a comprehensive economic partnership agreement. And part of the issues that we are alluding to are also now embedded in that agreement. So there's progress, but I would like to assure the members that it is, each country has its own issues, and we try to navigate on a bilateral basis with those individual countries. And, but we're making good progress, and we will try to accelerate where possible.
Thank you. Senator Onyonka Richard Momwembe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. CS, I'm happy to see you, even though you're covered by the presidential, but I'm sure you're seeing me from where you are. First of all, I would like to say that I'm happy that you're dealing with this issue. I have previously, as you are aware, worked in the same position you're working now. And one thing that has shocked me, Madam Speaker, is that the things that we were talking 10 years ago, it looks like nothing actually did happen. So I would like to ask the Minister to tell me that out of all the bilateral labor agreements that you've signed with the countries that you've signed, the question I wanted to ask you is whether you are proactively, and if indeed, as you say, that these agreements are going to deliver some fruits, whether you're proactively engaging yourself in preparation to make it possible that when these people are able, our people are able to go and get these jobs, they could be handled and managed in settling in and what needs to be done, and whether the Minister is aware that the reason why the labor contracting agreements in our country and the reason why our people keep suffering out there once they go to those countries to work is because most of those agreements are actually hidden. Nobody knows what actually is written in there. Nobody understands what the terms and conditions are. So I'm hoping that when the Minister has signed those agreements, he will enable the Labor Committee of the Senate to interrogate that agreement and make sure that we are able to understand what is in it and what we have gained, and if any, what the terms and conditions are. Madam Speaker, the last issue, which is a continuum of the same question I'm asking, is that I don't know whether the CS is aware that if you look at social media, somebody came and posted where they say that they are currently in the US, in Iowa, and out of the 400 people who are now Kenyans who are working in Iowa, this gentleman realized that all the 400 come from one given Kenyan community. The question I wanted to ask the Minister is whether he's aware that his government is recruiting individuals according to their tribes and shipping them over to whichever country they are going to work, and whether he is trying to solve that problem given the fact that Kenyans are expecting equity and fairness when these opportunities come, particularly given that many of us in the Senate represent the county governments. Can the Minister promise this House that when those positions come out and they're going to be distributed to Kenyans, particularly those ones that are targeting certain areas, that all our 47 counties are going to be included, and they will also get the small cake of whatever that the government is trying to bake? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Prime Cabinet Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First of all, I want to state that one of the things we want to pursue in government and even in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is an open government policy. By open government policy means that we do not intend to hide any information. We want to share information with Kenyans. They're entitled to it. And therefore, when we conclude any MOUs, they shall not be hidden. They shall be made available to the relevant committees of Parliament. And as I said, Madam Speaker, is that one of the things we are also planning to do, to bring before Parliament, is a sessional paper to have our members deliberate and guide appropriately on Kenya's foreign policy, foreign and diaspora policy. Because all along, this has been confined to the executive, documents are confined to the executive. We want, for the first time, a comprehensive discussion on Kenya's foreign policy and some of these issues. I'm sure we will benefit, that document will benefit immensely or be enriched immensely from the wisdom of Parliament. The second thing that I want to emphasize is that these recruitments have been largely private sector driven. They have not been government driven, but the government will not entertain an ethnic driven arrangement when getting people opportunities outside the country. Madam Speaker, some issues are historical, and we all know them. For instance, and my brother, the senator, is very vast in this. He knows that if you went to Minnesota today in the United States, because of historical purposes, you're likely to find a certain inclination of Kenyans, because there were those who broke the ground in that area, and they tend to then invite more and more to come. If you went to LA and Atlanta, you'll also find a similar pattern. So there are some aspects that were there because the pioneering Kenyans who went there earlier laid ground for a number of other Kenyans to join them. So it is not a deliberate policy of government to pursue that. But thank you for highlighting that, so that as we reflect on these opportunities, we remain national in outlook. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Cabinet Secretary. Senator Ekomwa James Lomenen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would want to ask this question to the Prime Minister. Is the Prime Minister aware of the Ethiopian military who have infiltrated a place called Anona in Sololo sub-county in Marsabit?
Senator Lomenen, you know there is a cardinal principle. When you are asking for questions, there must be an offshoot of the primary, the principal question that brought the Cabinet Secretary here. Is your supplementary question in line with that policy?
Yes.
How?
In infiltration of Ethiopian military in Sololo sub-county in Marsabit.
I would guide you to phrase that question, give it to the Secretariat, and give an opportunity to the Prime Cabinet Secretary to come and substantively respond to such a crucial and important question. It does not emanate from the data he's dealing with, those Kenyans working in the Gulf. The original question, consult Senator Halwale. He will give you the primary question that was asked. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Mwinyi Haji Mohamed Faki.
Asante Speaker kwa kunipa fursa hii. Kwanza nimpongeze waziri kwa taarifa aliyotoa. Mheshimiwa Spika, niko na swali moja ambalo limegawanyika pande mbili. Kwanza, je, serikali inajua kwamba Mkenya kwa jina la Stephen Bertrand Munyako, passport number A353019, kwa sasa yuko Saudi Arabia na anatarajiwa kunyongwa ama kuuawa kupitia kwa hukumu ya kifo mnamo tarehe 26 mwezi huu wa 7, na ni jambo gani ambalo serikali ya Kenya inafanya kuhakikisha kwamba maisha ya Mkenya huyo ambaye alikuwa ameshtakiwa na makosa ya kuua bila kukusudia yameweza kuokolewa na vile vile pia kurudi Kenya kujiunga na familia yake ikiwa mama yake na pamoja na Wakenya wengine. Mheshimiwa Spika, swala la pili ni kuhusiana na Mkenya mwingine kwa jina Nixon Daudi Mwango ambaye alihukumiwa na kwa sasa ameachiliwa, lakini bado yuko katika jela ya mjini Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, kwa makosa ambayo pia mahakama haikumpata na hatia, lakini anatarajiwa kurudi kurejeshwa nyumbani kwa sababu ya kumaliza kesi hiyo. Na mwisho, Mheshimiwa Spika,
you should only ask 2 questions maximum.
Zinalingana, Mheshimiwa Spika.
Let him respond to those 2, Senator Faki. I have 5 more senators
Thank
here.
you, Madam
and
Speaker.
We need to move to the next.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Prime Cabinet Secretary, please respond to that.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes, we are aware of the case of Stephen Bertrand Munyako, who was incarcerated on a case of manslaughter in Riyadh, and I wish to state that a few weeks ago, I did write officially to the Foreign Minister of Saudi Arabia, intervening that this individual should not be executed. That execution was deferred. It did not take place. I also had the opportunity to meet the family of the mother of Stephen Bertrand Munyako, and we had a conversation. And the challenge that is there is that